I thought I was safe in my own home. My doors were locked, my lights were off, and I was ready to go to bed when a knock came at my door. Soft but urgent. It was midnight. No one visits that late. When I opened it, a delivery driver stood there, his face pale, his voice shaking. He said, "I'm not supposed to tell you this." Then he handed me a package that wasn't even mine. The label had another name, another address, but my home written on it. I asked him what he meant, but he just whispered, "Check inside, and don't call the number on the box." Then he walked away quickly into the dark. I closed the door and set the package on the table, trying to calm myself. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe he delivered to the wrong house. But when I opened that box, my heart stopped. Inside was a photo of my bedroom, taken just 20 minutes earlier, while I was sleeping in that bed. If you're watching this, make sure you subscribe for more real-life stories like this one and comment below where you're watching from. Because what happened next changed the way I look at safety forever. That night had started like any other. I was home alone, working on a freelance project for a client. My name is Lena Ward. I'm 29 years old, and I live in a quiet apartment on the edge of town. It's the kind of neighborhood where people smile at each other in the mornings, but keep to themselves at night. I'd been living there for almost 2 years, since my breakup with my ex, Kyle. After everything that happened between us, being alone had started to feel peaceful again. It was a cold night in early spring. Rain tapped softly against the windows, and I had music playing low as I sat on my couch with my laptop. I was halfway through designing a logo when my phone buzzed. A delivery alert flashed on my screen. "Your package is arriving soon." I frowned. I hadn't ordered anything. I figured it must have been a mistake, maybe a neighbor's package sent to the wrong address. I ignored it and went back to work. By midnight, I was tired. I shut off my computer, brushed my teeth, and was about to head to bed when the knock came. 3 sharp taps, quick, deliberate, and close. My chest tightened instantly. No one knocks that late. I froze in the hallway, listening. There it was again. I hesitated before peeking through the window beside the door. A delivery van was parked under the streetlight, engine running. The driver stood on my porch, holding a brown parcel. His uniform looked normal, but something about him seemed off. He kept glancing over his shoulder like he didn't want to be there. I opened the door slightly, leaving the chain locked. "Can I help you?" I asked. He nodded but didn't smile. "Are you Lena Ward?" "Yes," I said slowly. He looked around again, then leaned closer. "I'm not supposed to tell you this, but you need to check what's inside this package." I blinked. "What? Why?" He shook his head quickly. "I can't explain. Just be careful. And whatever you do, don't call the number on the label." He handed me the box and walked away fast, not even waiting for me to sign. I stood there in my doorway, heart racing, watching his truck pull away until its taillights disappeared down the street. The box wasn't big, maybe the size of a book. It had my address printed neatly, but the name said K. Morton. I didn't know anyone by that name. I checked the return address, just a post office in another state. I set it down on my kitchen table, staring at it. My first instinct was to call my brother, Eli. He's a police officer, always telling me to report weird things like this. But it was late, and part of me felt silly. Maybe it was just a mix-up. Maybe the driver had the wrong package. I decided to open it, just to make sense of what was inside. I grabbed a small knife from the drawer and carefully sliced the tape. The sound of the cardboard tearing made me shiver. Inside, there was no invoice, no paperwork, just a stack of white paper with something sitting on top. It was a photo, glossy, high quality, freshly printed. My bedroom, the same blanket, the same lamp, even the sweater I'd left draped across the chair. The timestamp in the corner said 11:42 p.m. I looked at the clock on the wall, 12:02 a.m. The photo had been taken 20 minutes earlier. While I was in that bed, my knees went weak. I dropped the photo on the table and stumbled back, my mind spinning. Someone had been in my home. Someone had stood in my bedroom and taken that picture while I was there, asleep. Every noise in the apartment suddenly felt louder. The hum of the fridge, the faint creak of the floorboards. I ran to check my locks. The front door was secure, the windows closed. Everything looked fine, but my body knew better. Something wasn't fine. someone had been here. Then I heard it, a soft sound, like a floorboard shifting above me. My bedroom was upstairs. The box was still open on the table, the photo staring back at me like proof that I wasn't alone. For a few seconds, I stood completely still, barely breathing. The sound upstairs wasn't loud. It was the kind of noise you might ignore in the daytime. But at midnight, after finding a photo of your bedroom taken minutes ago, even the smallest sound feels like a scream. I wanted to believe it was nothing, maybe the wood settling from the cold night air. But deep down, I knew better. I turned off the kitchen light and stood in the dark, trying to listen. The floor above me creaked again, slower this time, like someone was moving carefully, trying not to be heard. My chest tightened. I reached for my phone on the counter and called my brother, Eli. He answered almost immediately, his voice groggy. "Lena? It's midnight. What's wrong?" My voice trembled. "Eli, someone's in my house." He was fully awake now. "What? Where are you right now?" "In the kitchen," I whispered. "I got a delivery. A box that wasn't mine. There was a photo inside. It's my room. The timestamp was 20 minutes ago." He didn't say anything for a second, and I could hear his breathing get faster. "Listen to me carefully. Don't go upstairs. Get out of the house right now. Go outside and wait for me. I'm on my way." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. I grabbed my keys, but when I reached the front door, I froze. The moment my hand touched the knob, the faint sound of footsteps came from the stairs. Slow, careful, close. Whoever it was, they were moving toward the hallway. Eli was still on the line. "Lena, what's happening?" "He's coming down," I whispered. "Go to the back door." Quietly, I moved as silently as I could, gripping my phone so tightly my hands hurt. My back door led to the small yard behind my building. I kept my eyes on the stairs, waiting to see a shadow, a shape, anything. The sound stopped. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. I reached the back door and turned the handle slowly. Locked. I twisted it again, and the metal latch clicked too loudly. That small sound felt like thunder. Then, footsteps again, faster this time. Coming down. I ran. The door finally gave way, and I stumbled into the cold night air. My bare feet hit the wet grass, and I sprinted across the yard toward the side gate. My phone nearly slipped from my hands as I heard Eli shouting, "Lena, where are you? Are you outside?" "Yes," I gasped. "I'm outside. Someone's in the house." "Stay where you are," he said firmly. "Don't go back inside. I'm calling backup." I crouched behind the trash bins near the fence, trying to stay hidden. The rain had started again, soft but steady, soaking through my sweatshirt. I peeked through the slats in the fence, my eyes fixed on the back door. It was open now, wide open. A figure stood in the doorway, still and silent. It was too dark to make out a face, but I could see the outline of a man. He wasn't big, but he moved with confidence, like he knew the layout of my house. He took one step outside, scanning the yard. My stomach twisted. Whoever this was had been in my bedroom, and now he was looking for me. My phone buzzed again. It was Eli texting. 2 minutes away. Stay hidden. I didn't move. The man turned back toward the house, stepping inside again. The moment he disappeared, I exhaled shakily, every muscle in my body tense. I wanted to run into the street, but something in me said to wait. I could hear faint sirens in the distance. Relief washed through me, but it was short-lived. The man came back out, holding something small in his hand. Even from where I hid, I recognized it. The picture. He looked down at it for a moment, then tore it in half and dropped it into the mud. The sight made my skin crawl. He wasn't just a stranger. He was sending a message. Red and blue lights flashed at the end of the street. The sirens grew, louder, and within seconds, Eli's patrol car pulled up. He jumped out before it fully stopped, shouting my name. "Lena!" I ran from behind the bins, straight toward him. He grabbed me and held me close for a second before turning to his partner. "He's inside," he said. They drew their weapons and moved toward the back door. I stood frozen near the curb, watching as they disappeared into my home. My legs felt weak, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. A minute later, Eli came back out, his expression tight. "He's gone. Door to the front street was left open. Gone, I said, my voice breaking. He was just there. Eli looked around the yard, scanning every shadow. We'll get him, he said. He left in a hurry. That means he knows we're on to him. He led me back to the car while another officer went inside to collect the box and the torn photo. As we drove away, I looked back at my house. My lights still on, my door wide open. The place I'd felt safest in now felt like a stranger's home. Eli reached over and squeezed my hand. You did the right thing calling me, he said softly. We'll figure out who this was. But as the rain blurred the view out the window, I realized something chilling. The man hadn't taken anything. He hadn't tried to hurt me. He just wanted me to know he'd been there, and that terrified me more than anything else. The next morning, I woke up at my brother Eli's house. I barely remembered falling asleep, just flashes of headlights, wet clothes, and the sound of the rain as we drove away from my home. My head throbbed, my throat felt dry, and my body still buzzed with the kind of tension that doesn't leave overnight. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was Eli sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open and a stack of papers beside him. He looked up as soon as he saw me. Morning, he said quietly. You okay? I nodded weakly. Not really. Did they find anything? He sighed. They found footprints in the mud outside your back door, but the rain washed most of them away. Inside, nothing was stolen. No broken windows, no forced entry. It's like whoever was there had a key. That last part made my stomach twist. A key? But how? Eli frowned. We're checking into that. The lock wasn't damaged. Whoever it was either picked it clean or already had access. I rubbed my arms, trying to steady myself. What about the package? Did you look at the label? He nodded and pulled out a photo of it. Addressed to you, but under the name K. Morton. We ran the name through our system. No one by that name lives anywhere near here. But get this. The tracking number traces back to a company called Quick Post Logistics. They confirmed it was registered under a temporary driver's ID. My heart jumped. The delivery guy? Eli nodded. Yeah, Derek Miles. He's been working for the company less than 2 months. We found his file. Clean record, no prior issues. We're going to talk to him today. I want to go, I said before I could stop myself. Eli hesitated. Lena, this isn't... I need to know what he meant when he said, I'm not supposed to tell you this. He knew something. Please. He studied me for a moment and then gave a reluctant nod. All right, but you stay beside me the entire time. A few hours later, we arrived at the delivery depot. It was a plain building with gray walls, rows of vans, and people in uniforms moving in and out. The air smelled like coffee and gasoline. Inside, the manager led us to a small break room where Derek Miles was waiting. He looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, his uniform wrinkled. When he saw me, he looked uneasy. Eli started the conversation. Derek, this is my sister, Lena Ward. You delivered a package to her last night. Derek nodded slowly. Yeah, I remember. Eli leaned forward. We need to know why you gave her that box and why you warned her not to call the number. Derek rubbed his hands together nervously. Because it wasn't supposed to go to her. I got that package at the start of my shift. The label said her address, but when I scanned it, the system flagged it as already delivered, an hour earlier. I thought it was a glitch, but when I saw the return name, I realized something was wrong. What do you mean? Eli asked. The sender's name, Derek said quietly. Kyle Morton. That's the name on the label. My stomach dropped. Kyle, my ex? He nodded. When I saw it, I remembered the system flagging another package under that same sender last week. It went to another address in your neighborhood. I didn't think much of it then, but last night, when I got to your street, I noticed a car parked across from your house. Same model that's been following me around my route the last few nights. That's when I knew it wasn't a coincidence. Eli's jaw tightened. So you think he was using the delivery system to send her something? Yes, Derek said. That's why I warned her. I didn't want to get in trouble, but I couldn't just hand it over and walk away. I saw the look on his face when he gave it to me, like he wanted me to be part of something I didn't understand. I felt sick. The thought of Kyle, the man I once trusted, being behind all this made my skin crawl. He knew my address. He had a key from when we lived together. He had access to me in a way no stranger could. Eli ran a hand through his hair. We'll need to verify all of this. If he's involved, we'll find him. I turned to Derek. Thank you for telling me. You probably saved my life. He nodded, his voice low. I just did what I'd want someone to do for my sister. On the way back, Eli was silent for most of the drive. When he finally spoke, his voice was tight. I should have made you change the locks when you broke up with him. I looked out the window, the trees blurring past. You couldn't have known. That night, I didn't go back home. Instead, I stayed with Eli while the police pulled surveillance footage from the neighborhood. Around midnight, an officer came by with an update. We got something. A man matching Kyle's description was seen near your house 2 nights in a row, both times around the same hour. Eli's eyes met mine. He's watching you. I swallowed hard. The fear was still there, but beneath it was something new. Anger. I wasn't going to live scared anymore. This time, I wasn't running. I looked at Eli and said quietly, "Then let's make sure he knows he's being watched now." And that's when everything started to change. Over the next 2 days, everything felt like a blur. The police installed a small surveillance camera outside my apartment, and Eli insisted that I stay with him until they got what they needed. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart skipped a beat. I kept wondering how long Kyle had been watching me, how many nights I had slept while he was just a few feet away, hidden in the shadows of the place I called home. On the 3rd night, Eli got the call. His partner, Officer Ramirez, said the motion-triggered camera caught movement near my back door again around midnight. A tall man in a dark hoodie, his face half hidden, using a key to unlock the door. My heart sank when Eli showed me the footage. Even though the image was grainy, I recognized his posture, the slight tilt of his head. It was Kyle. The realization hit like ice. The man I had once loved, the one I had trusted with my secrets and my safety, had been inside my home while I slept. He wasn't just trying to scare me. He had been invading my life quietly, methodically, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Eli called Ramirez. "We move tonight," he said firmly. "We'll stake out and catch him in the act." Despite his protests, I refused to sit this one out. I needed closure. I needed to see him caught with my own eyes. So we waited, parked down the street from my apartment in an unmarked car, watching through the darkness. The night was silent except for the hum of the streetlights. My palms were sweaty, my throat dry. Around 12:15 a.m., I saw it. The faint movement of a shadow near my backyard gate. Eli adjusted the binoculars, then whispered, "That's him." My pulse hammered in my ears as I saw Kyle crouch near the door, pulling something from his jacket. It was a small camera, one he had clearly been hiding around my home. I whispered, "He's been recording me." Eli's expression hardened. Not anymore. He gave the signal, and within seconds, 2 patrol cars quietly rolled in from opposite ends of the street. Red and blue lights suddenly flooded the darkness. Kyle froze, the camera still in his hand, as officers rushed toward him. He tried to run, but they tackled him to the ground near the gate. I sat frozen in the car, staring as they handcuffed him. My body trembled, my chest tight with disbelief and relief all at once. The man who had once brought me flowers, who used to tell me I was safe with him, was now being shoved into a police cruiser under flashing lights. Eli turned to me. "You don't have to go out there." But I did. I needed to. I opened the door and stepped into the cool night air. The moment Kyle saw me, he stopped struggling. His eyes met mine, calm, but empty. For a second, I almost didn't recognize him. "Why?" I asked quietly. "Why would you do this?" He tilted his head, his voice flat. "Because you left. You just walked away and pretended like I didn't exist. I wanted you to remember me." "That's not love," I said. "That's control." He smiled faintly, like he thought I'd eventually understand. "I didn't mean to scare you. I just wanted to watch you, to make sure you were okay." Eli stepped between us, his jaw clenched. "You broke into her house, Kyle. You planted cameras. You sent her threats. That's not watching. That's stalking." Kyle looked past him, eyes on me again. "You used to say I made you feel safe." The words made my stomach twist. "I did," I said, "until I realized safety isn't love. It's freedom. And you took that from me." He said nothing after that. The officers led him into the car, his hands bound, his head lowered. The moment the door closed, I finally felt like I could breathe again. The police searched my house that night. They found 3 hidden cameras, one in my bedroom, one in the living room, and one near the hallway vent. All of them were transmitting to a cloud account under Kyle's name. The package with the photo had been his way of testing whether I'd noticed. The delivery driver, Derek, had accidentally become the one person who broke the pattern by questioning it. When Eli showed me the evidence later, I felt both sick and relieved. The thought that he'd been watching me for weeks was horrifying, but at least now I knew the truth. It wasn't a faceless stranger. It wasn't random. It was the person I had once trusted most, and that somehow made it even worse. The next morning, Kyle confessed to everything. He'd used his old key to enter the house while I was away. He'd installed the cameras gradually, saying he just wanted to protect me. He admitted that when I didn't respond to his messages, he sent the package to force me to react. His tone, according to the officers, was calm, almost proud. Hearing that made me realize how dangerous he really was, not because of what he did, but because of how normal it felt to him. Eli came over that evening and sat beside me on the porch. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the street. He handed me a mug of tea and said, "He's gone, Lena. You can breathe now." I stared at the sky and nodded. "I know. It just doesn't feel real yet." He smiled faintly. "It will. You faced him, and you didn't let him win. That's real." For the first time in a long time, I let myself believe it. The air smelled clean. The world looked quiet again. And for once, I didn't feel like someone was watching. I had my life back, not the same one, but a stronger one. And as I went inside that night, locking my own door with steady hands, I knew that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't strangers. They're the people who once said they loved you. The days after Kyle's arrest felt strangely quiet. The police returned my keys, but I didn't step back into my house for almost a week. I stayed at Eli's place, trying to sleep, but my mind wouldn't stop replaying the last few nights. Every sound made me flinch. Every creak of the floor reminded me of that moment when I heard footsteps upstairs. It's strange how quickly your sense of safety can disappear, and how hard it is to rebuild it. When I finally went back home, Eli came with me. The police had already cleared the house and removed every camera, but stepping inside still felt like walking into someone else's space. My living room smelled like dust and cleaning solution. The lights flickered slightly when I turned them on. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, my heart pounding, waiting to feel that familiar peace again. It didn't come right away, but I took a deep breath and forced myself forward. Eli walked beside me, scanning the corners. "You don't have to stay here yet," he said softly. "I do," I replied. "If I don't start now, I never will." We checked every room together. I opened every drawer, every closet. It was exhausting, but with each door I opened, the fear loosened its grip a little more. When we reached my bedroom, I froze. That's where he'd taken the photo. My bed was perfectly made, untouched, but knowing that someone had stood there with a camera, had looked at me while I was vulnerable, made my stomach twist. Eli noticed. "You sure you're okay?" I nodded. "I will be. Not today, but soon." After he left, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared out the window. The street looked ordinary again. Kids rode their bikes, someone walked their dog, and a delivery truck rolled by. Different driver this time. For the first time in weeks, I let myself cry. Not out of fear, but release. I wasn't scared anymore. I was angry that someone had stolen my peace and my trust, but I was also proud that I had survived it, faced it, and taken it back. Over the next month, I started therapy. My therapist, a calm woman named Dana, helped me understand something I hadn't realized. I wasn't just afraid of Kyle. I was afraid of myself, of not seeing the danger sooner. I kept blaming myself for missing the signs. She said something that stuck with me. People who love deeply often ignore red flags because they see potential, not threat. It's not weakness. It's hope. That sentence helped me start forgiving myself. Eli checked in every day at first. He'd drop by with groceries or coffee, pretending it was casual, but I knew it was his way of making sure I felt safe. I started sleeping better, keeping my phone by my bed, but not clinging to it like before. I changed my locks again, got a security system, and adopted a dog from the shelter, a golden retriever I named Jasper. He wasn't just company, he was comfort. Every time he barked at the sound of footsteps outside, it reminded me I wasn't alone anymore. Kyle pled guilty to stalking, illegal surveillance, and trespassing. During the hearing, I didn't look at him once. The judge read the charges, and his lawyer tried to argue that he acted out of emotional distress. But I knew better. It wasn't about love or heartbreak. It was about control. When the sentence was read, 3 years in prison and a restraining order, I finally exhaled. It wasn't just justice. It was closure. That night, Eli and I sat outside my porch again, just like the night of his arrest. The air was cooler now, the stars clearer. "You did it," he said. I smiled faintly. "We did it." He shook his head. "No, Lena, you found your courage. You didn't let fear win. That's something no one can take from you." Those words stayed with me. Because in truth, fear doesn't disappear all at once. It lingers quietly, like a shadow that follows you until you learn how to walk in the light again. And that's what I was doing, one day at a time, one breath at a time. Sometimes I still think about the night the delivery driver knocked on my door, how one stranger's warning might have saved my life. I reached out to Derek a few weeks later to thank him again. He told me he quit the job after what happened. "I didn't want to deliver boxes anymore," he said. "I just wanted to deliver peace of mind." We laughed about it, but I understood him completely. It's strange how one terrifying moment can change everything about how you see the world. I used to think safety meant strong locks, well-lit streets, and security cameras. But now I know it's more than that. It's about the people who show up for you when you're afraid, the ones who remind you that you still have control, even when life tries to take it away. I didn't want this story to define me, but it did teach me something important, that fear loses its power the moment you speak about it. So if you're watching this and you've ever felt unsafe, unheard, or trapped, know this. You are stronger than the thing that scared you. You can rebuild, you can heal, and you deserve peace. The night I finally slept in my bed again, I didn't dream about Kyle or the package or the footsteps. I dreamed about light coming through the window, Jasper curled at my feet, and the feeling of finally being home again. So that's where I'll leave you, with hope, with courage, and with a reminder that sometimes the scariest stories end with strength. If you enjoyed this story and want more real-life mysteries and emotional journeys like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and comment below where you're watching from. Your support helps keep these stories coming and reminds me that every story worth telling ends not in fear, but in survival.